All right. Hello and welcome. Just as I interrupt myself with that. We had a little bit of technical issues there, so please ignore that. We are here and we are ready to party. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, this is giving you something to talk about, or just a live TV as I like to call it. I'm your host, Melissa Krechler. Today, we're going to be talking about finding yourself after domestic violence. In that, we're going to be talking about finding your genius, finding yourself, recreating, finding financial freedom, all of that fun stuff. Today's sponsor is a Phoenix Identity. Want to find yourself again, join a Phoenix Identity and reconnect with who you are and who you want to be, and set up a free clarity session today. Link in the description, so go and check that out. I'm going to hand it over to my guest speaker to introduce themselves. Emma, would you like to say hello?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name is Emma Ferrick. I'm the founder of Elf Operations, and my company is an operations consulting firm, but I got my start in the online space after, like Melissa said, becoming a single mom after domestic violence and just trying to piece back my life together after that. And that's what's led me into today. I'll do a brief intro unless you want me to go deeper right away.
That is good. We'll jump into the conversation. So you and I were talking, I'm just grabbing it here. You and I were talking in the pre-screening, and one of the things we really wanted to focus on during this episode was when you're in a domestic violence situation or relationship, the process becomes you lose yourself. You lose yourself in that process. So whether that is because of the stress or the environment, or even your partner, right? That is a classic sign of domestic violence, whether that be physical, mental, emotional, is they cut you off from society, they cut you off from your friends and loved ones, and they cut you off from who you are at your core. So it is very easy and very common for men and women, so we're not either one,
Right.
lose themselves throughout the domestic violence process. So when you're coming out of that process, or you're thinking about coming out of that process, you don't know who you are. You don't know what you want. You know you got to get out. You know you have the strength to do that, but your self-confidence is shot. There's so many things that you're going through where you don't know how to navigate. You don't know who you are in that process. But at the same time, which is where Emma comes in, you want your financial freedom. You want to create space to rebuild, to reconnect. I'm the reconnection. That's my job as an identity coach, right? Is reconnecting people to who they are. But through that process, again, it's hard and it's stressful. And, you know, one of the main things that I think a lot of men and women who are in domestic violent relationships will not have that financial independence, right?
Right.
So
yeah,
that's a big concern when getting out of a relationship or a situation is, how am I going to support myself? And when you're feeling like you don't know who you are, you don't know what you're capable of, you don't know your genius, because that's what we were talking about in the pre-screening. It's hard.
It's so hard. And I think for me, what made it harder was I was at, like, when this happened, I was at such a pivotal time in my life where you're still like developing your identity, because I was 21 at the time. So like just getting out of college, I didn't have a full-time job, or like I was in like a weird spot where I did and then I didn't. My grandpa had just passed away. My dad just had a stroke. So like that was two strong male figures in my life at the time. So I was just going through all this turmoil, and I was like, I don't know who I am without being in school or having that. I was going through that identity crisis. And then on top of that, I became a new mom, and I was like, who am I? I had no idea. I was like, I just played whatever part was positioned in front of me next. And I just tried my best to do what I could. And it's hard when you don't get to do what you want. You're not like, I just kind of was like, okay, I'm in school, I'm a mom, I'm this. But once that all kind of came down around me, when I had the breaking point of the domestic violence, it was time to say, like, okay, what is it that I really want, and how do I get myself out of this? But it is extremely hard when you've been morphed with someone, especially if you have kids, it's a whole different dynamic of a domestic violence situation. But like you said, they do try to like take over your identity. They try to control you emotionally. They try to control you financially. And that was a big thing for me, because I was told for so long that I couldn't support myself. I would never be able to support myself. Like I needed him to survive. And those are just like some very common lies abusers will tell their victims, where because they don't want you to see your actual full potential that you could be living in your life.
Yeah, they want to keep you small, right? And dependent on them and only them. Yeah. They flood you with love first, and then it's like, oh, here, here's a little bit of, yeah. So domestic violence situations suck, right? Abuse of any kind sucks. And I'm not going to finish that sentence, but it sucks. So what we're trying to encourage with this episode is, number one, finding yourself, because I think that's, you've already found the strength within yourself, right? Right. Every single one of my clients, and this isn't a promo, this is literally the number one thing I look for in my own clients, is that decision of, I am done, enough is enough, I am doing what I need to do to change this, right? When you're getting out of a domestic violent relationship or situation, that's what's playing in your head, right? So you've already found that strength. You might not it. You might not embrace it with confidence, but you've already found that strength of, enough is enough. I can't live like this anymore. My kids can't live like this anymore. And so you're already in that state, right, of change, of finding who you are. And so realizing who you are and going through that process, what do I like? What do I enjoy? What am I good at, right? And even throughout that process, you've always still been you. You might be morphing and changing, but at your core, you don't change at your core. That is who you are, right? So throughout that entire process of the domestic relationship, you're still Emma, you're still Melissa, you're still whatever your name is, you're still you. So there is genius in that, because there are things that you were good at during that time. There are things that maybe you were interested during that time, or inspiration that you found during that time, and you brushed it aside, you pushed it off because, of course, dependent on another person. Your entire lifestyle and capabilities are tied up into this person, right? So you ignore that. But there is a way to kind of look back and go, what am I interested in? What do I enjoy? What am I good at, right? If you crocheted during that whole time, and you can think, okay, well, how can I bring myself some extra money? Do some crocheting, crochet blankets, crochet, hats and baby clothes and pet clothes. My daughter wants to do that. Find your genius and utilize it, right? And exactly. I think that's one of those big things about creating your financial freedom.
It is, I think, just going off of so many good points of what you said, is that sometimes you don't realize that you're ready for the change, and it's going to be a long change. Like, it's definitely, you have to take that and commit. There were days that it was so hard for me to put myself back together, but one of the things I knew I was good at was I wanted to be a good mom. I wanted to get better. I didn't want to have that life for my daughter, that she saw a mom who wasn't loved, a mom who was disrespected and put down, because that would reflect her in her. That was going to be something she grew up and had that image of herself in her. So for me, that motivated me to, one, leave, but two, for the longest time when I was in that relationship, I knew in my gut I wanted to start a business. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it would be. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew, because he would always tell me, like, you can't, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, blah, blah, blah. So that actually became like a motivator for me to heal, was to go out and start this business. And because the abusers use the finances. Like, I know so many people who go through the system and they'll use the child support, or they'll use money as a way to kind of hold that control over you. And I did not want that to be my situation. And at the time, because I was so young, I had so much college debt that I didn't know what I was going to do, and I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. So I originally thought I was going to do blogging, but I'm like, I'm not a terrible writer, but I don't like writing. So blogging's not the answer. And that's when I found the online space. And that was such a game changer for me as a mom. And I think so many women can attest to that, is being able to connect with other moms online, to connect with other people online. Because in my area too, I found so many ways of healing that I would never have found if I had just looked locally. There were so many women that my business allowed me to meet, that and be in contact with, that actually helped my healing process in different ways that weren't just talk therapy or traditional therapy that I was able to find, which I think is so crucial and important, and like a positive impact of social media and the internet, and just being in the online space, is so helpful to have different avenues and have different support systems.
Yeah.
You gotta go. You gotta go. Hi, I'm doing something. Yeah, I love you.
Mine have done that lots. And it is important to have that support system. And, you know, that's one of the reasons I created the Women Supporting Women Network, is because I wanted women to find support, find, you know, encouragement and inspiration from a group of women, right? Because it's so important to find people who are going to help lift you up, who are going to, you know, give you that smart smack upside the head and go, you're better, right? Like you're good, you're better than this, right? And give you that tough love and that need and desire to want to be more, to create more. And you're right. You pointed out, and I love that you pointed that out. I can get so passionate and so fired up. And everything that I teach to me is really easy. And sometimes I forget that it's not as easy for everybody else. But at the same time, when you can grasp the concepts that I've created, then it becomes easy, right? Like once you get to that point, then it's like free for all, right? Like you'll just create and create and create. But it isn't easy, because you're trying to undo months, years of trauma, of, you know, we as women, we're not even as women, as individuals, we're not taught how to create our own identity. We're not taught, you know, even my own house. Like I talk to my kids and I'm like, you're just like me, or you're just like your dad, or whatever. Right. And then I look at my daughters and I'm like, who are you? Right. Like you can be angry with me. You can be sad. You can be mad. You can be happy. What do you feel? Right. And I've learned over the years to encourage them to be themselves, to encourage them to do things their way. And I do that with my clients too. Who are you? What matters to you? But we're not teaching people, who are you? Find who you are. Don't follow the trodden path just because it's easier if it's not what you want. Right.
And there's just so many societal expectations that we have to also figure out how to navigate, because I feel like in my generation, I was very much raised to be a people pleaser and to just go with what my parents wanted or whatever. So like college was the next most logical choice. And then when I found out I was pregnant unexpectedly outside of marriage, I was like, well, I have to stay because that's the expectation. It's better for my child. And no one talked about how it was better for her to grow up in a home that had two loving parents instead of because now I have a husband who's amazing and shows her and my now other daughter how to love, like how you're supposed to be loved and how you're supposed to be respected and cherished in a relationship, that it's not better for them to see that disrespect and to see that, and that it is okay to go against the grain, because I just felt like there was so many societal expectations that I was just supposed to follow and supposed to just adhere to, when that just did not make sense. And once I got out of that abusive relationship, that really opened my eyes and allowed me to do my path of what I wanted, because it is hard to potentially upset people or people you care about. And I think the biggest lesson in the past couple of years I've learned is if they really are upset with you, then they might not be your people. And that's kind of hard for us to accept, especially if it's family or close friend. But as in the personal development journey, you got to do what's best for your mental health and your true identity.
I've had two situations that I want to share in friendships. Okay. I grew up, I have had an amazing best friend, and we talk and then we don't talk, and we don't talk for a couple of years. And it's not because of a lack of love or affection. Life gets in the way. And this specific friend has had multiple abusive relationships, not just one, but a couple. And during that time, I never liked them. I never liked the people that they were with. I let it be known that I don't like them, but I also let it be known it's your life. I'm not going to force you to make decisions when you're not ready. I will be here for you. If you want to stay, I'm here for you. If you want to go, I'm here for you. I love you regardless of what you choose, but know that I'm here for you. I don't like them.
Yeah.
I wish I could run them over with my damn car, but at the same time, it's your life and I'm here for you, right? And I supported them.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't agree with their situation or with their decisions, I supported this person because my love for them, it wasn't my life, right?
Right.
My life. And I wasn't going to judge them or ridicule or shame them for a situation that they probably didn't want to be in anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then
they just don't know how to get out of it. That's the hardest part, is figuring out how do I detach.
And the shame and the blame and the guilt. And, there's a lot of guilt associated with that. How did I let it get this far? Why did I stay for so long? What is happening to me? There's a lot of this, right? Why didn't I stop it at the beginning? There's a lot of self-doubt, a lot of questions, and it's understandable. And if people are going to judge you, and that goes to my next story, I did something last year, and I did something, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I made a couple choices for my life and my family that worked for us and benefited us. Well, not some of it benefited, some of it was sad, but we made some decisions. And during this process, I had been talking to a couple friends of mine, and futuristically, if a couple weeks down the road, or even like a week or two later, I had one of my friends ask me to validate for them why I made my decision because they didn't agree with it. And brought up all the trauma, all the stress that I was going through, brought it up again, and then turned around and told our mutual friends. They had been talking about it all together, not really knowing the situation or my reasoning behind it. They were all discussing it amongst themselves. And then lo and behold, I was the bad guy, because I got angry because I wouldn't explain myself to somebody else.
Right.
Nobody should be in that situation.
Right.
So no matter what your situation is, who you're with or who you're not with, or where you're at, or what you've let happen, or the decisions that you've made, one of the biggest things that I tell my own family is you can't change it now.
Right.
You can't change the decisions you've made. You can't change the situations you've been in. You can't change your past and how it played out. What you can change is your future. What you can change is your present. And what you can change is how your past impacts your now.
Right. That's so true, because the guilt, people just carry that guilt and that shame that's around, like, why didn't I know? As I went through that myself as well. I came from a good family. I came from, I didn't think this would ever happen to me. But eventually what I've learned is just reframing those narratives in my own mind has been so huge. And that carrying that guilt and carrying that shame and carrying that whatever that I still do, sometimes still comes up in different ways as I see it impacting my family now. I feel this guilt of, oh, my husband has to deal with it. Well, no, he chose to be a part of our lives regardless of knowing that as a fact. I shouldn't feel guilt for that. It's just, it takes up too much mental and emotional space that is not productive. And I knew when I got out too that I didn't want to be a single mom, a negative single mom statistic. I wanted to be a statistic that was impactful. Like, so now that's why I've made it such a mission to help other women get out and help them. I didn't know or learn about different ways to take back control of their life, whether that be through their finances or their mental health, and get through that difficult period so that they're not carrying that grief or that shame because they don't have the resources. Because a lot of the times that's what we see is they don't have the resources available to help them heal, because not only are they taking care of them, trying to take care of themselves, they're taking care of their kids. So they don't have the time or capacity to do the healing that they need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's entitled to that. You know, if we talk about having an entitled society, how about we make it, we're entitled to happiness. We're entitled to freedom. We're entitled to self-expression and, you know, being who we want to be and being where we want to be. And none of that entitlement means that we have to put that on anybody else. Right? I'm entitled to my opinion. I'm entitled to have blonde hair. I'm entitled to, you know, whatever it is that I want to do, I'm entitled to that, but not at the pain of somebody else, not at the punishment or the judgment of somebody else. When you find yourself after being in a domestic violent relationship, remember that you're you know, your ex or your partner's decisions, that's on them. That's on them. You can choose to no longer be a victim. You can choose to find yourself. You can choose how you want to take what's happened to you and use it moving forward. Are you going to take back your power and say, you don't own me, you don't control me, this is my power, right? When you're still living as a victim, when you're living in that blame, shame, guilt, you're giving them your power still, right? Yeah. That's, nobody wants that. So start getting angry, get angry, right? People are like, oh, no negativity. Why not get angry? Get angry and say, you don't control me anymore, and use that anger to push yourself forward and say, I'm going to change. I'm going to be the best mom that I can be. Give yourself grace, give yourself love, give yourself forgiveness and understanding that shit happens no matter who you are. Pardon my language, because I know your daughter's in the room. It doesn't, I've had fun and we're good. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. From the day you're born to the day you die, you're your only constant. The only person you have to be accountable to is yourself. Yep. That's it. It's so true. And I think they're going to try like hell to keep that control. They're going to try. I still am dealing with it. Even today, I got a message of like nastiness and, you know, this. And you don't have, like, that was the hardest thing for me to learn, and because I always felt like I had to tell people, like I had to prove them wrong, had to do this, had to do that. And now I'm just like, I don't have to respond to you. I don't owe you a response. I don't owe you an explanation. That sometimes is the most powerful thing, is not responding to them, because they want to get you nitpicking. They want to get you fighting. They want to bring you back down to their level, because when you're all fired up and on adrenaline and on emotion, you're not thinking clearly. You have then, like you said, given them back that power, which is what they want. They want that control. They don't want you to be level-headed or emotionally sound, because that's how they'll gaslight you up and then pit it against you. They're like, oh, you're the one acting crazy, or you're the one doing this, because they get you all worked up. So you have to know yourself better than they think they know you. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. it is a huge process. And again, you made the point, and I do get caught up in my passion and my excitement and how easy it is for me to tell you all that this change is possible. It isn't hard. Sorry, it isn't easy. Right? It is not an easy process. Is it worth it? Wholeheartedly.
Oh yeah.
It is worth it. But it is not easy. There are many people out there that are going to help you, that are going to support you, that will, they don't have to be family. They don't have to be friends. They don't have to be professionals. It could be some Joe Blow down the street who gives you a hug and says, everything's going to be okay.
Right. I think it's the first step is just getting aware, because I still am dealing with stuff 3 years later. I know now there are things that like sometimes I don't always know that it's going to be a trigger, but I'm aware enough to in my own body to say, okay, this is triggering to me. So I can look to my now partner and say, hey, this is really triggering me. What X did, it's not you. Because sometimes I think that's something, or like he'll notice it and say, hey, you're taking this out on our daughter, like, because she's the next. And so he's like, I think you need to take a break for a few minutes and go, ground yourself or whatever. It's just like being aware of how to handle those situations, because you are going to get emotionally triggered and you don't always know what's going to be. So the more you learn, the better aware you'll be. It's not going to be easy, because I still deal with stuff. And even at new levels, I feel like we're always going to hit those uncomfortable and growing points, but having the tools in your toolbox to deal with them, or like you said, the people to help you deal with them. Because sometimes I just need to talk it out with someone else to be like, am I the crazy one in this situation? Is it me? And normally it's not. So you just need that sounding board sometimes.
Yep, sometimes, absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we get going?
No, I think we covered so much. And I mean, if you're going through something, I guess the one thing would be, if you're going through something, don't be afraid to reach out, and don't carry that guilt, because it's not you. You deserve to have that happy life, kind of like what we said.
Yeah, absolutely. And to reiterate what we talked about in this episode, our purpose is to, one, if you're leaving a domestic violent relationship, or you've been in one, or no matter what stage you're at, you, just like Emma just said, you have the right to be happy, right? You have the right to live your life on your terms, being happy, being free. Remember that part of those steps are finding yourself. That's, that's going to be a huge one, is finding out who you are now. Who are you today? Who is, who's Emma? Who's Melissa? Who are you? Because at your core, you're still always going to be you. So reconnect to that. And then ask yourself, what am I good at? What do I enjoy? Right? Learn how to control your emotions, because we do lose that control of our emotions, right? We get triggered, and we learn to kind of shut everything off, so that we're monotone, so that we don't push the bears, so that we don't push those buttons or cause any more issues, or give that reaction that, abusers are looking for. So knowing how to do those things, knowing how to control your emotions in a positive, healthy way, finding what you're good at so that you can create some maybe financial freedom for yourself if you're interested in being your own boss, or, starting your own business. There are so many different things to this. And if you want to learn more, reach out to myself or Emma. Our links are in the description of this episode. I know that we both work with people who have suffered trauma, who are, have gone through domestic violence, or creating a business. So we're here and available to help. So check us out. Check out a Phoenix identity, of course, if you want to reconnect with who you are, because a Phoenix identity, that's what it's all about, right? When a Phoenix doesn't like its life, what does it do? It burns itself to the ground. And,
very poetic.
You get a new baby Phoenix.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So
it's beautiful.
All right. Thank you so much, Emma, for joining me today. I really appreciated your time.
Thank you, Melissa, so much. I'm so glad you had me on the show and I could share this with your audience.
Absolutely. And again, don't forget everybody to go and check out Emma. Links in the description of this episode. You can find her at Elf Operations. So go and check that out. I'm Melissa Krechler. I'm your host. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, morning, or evening. If you're interested in being a guest speaker, blogger, sponsor, or if you want to see a topic featured on the show, please go and check us out. Reach out at justalivetv.com. And yeah, lots of love and be safe, because safe and happy. That's all we can wish you.
Yes.
All right.
Agreed.